Hello and welcome back to Jules Math Tools, where math is made easy. In our session today, this is part 10 on solving our fractions involving PEMDAS. And if you're ready to see how we're going to solve this question, let's get started. So in our question that we're solving today involving PEMDAS, I know this looks eerie familiar to the question that we solved in parts 8 and 9. But I placed this question in simply to just show our students or to show you that even though questions may have the same numbers, remember that if the operation sign is also in a different position, that is not the same question and you should not be expecting to get the exact same answer. Okay, so let's get started. So just like we did in our earlier session in part 9, I'm also going to be applying those steps here as well. So remember that if you are working these operations out separately, remember that PEMDAS tells us that if we have division and multiplication together, that we work from left to right. So that means that because multiplication is first, you will work out the operation sign for multiplication first and then the division afterwards. But if you are one of those students who are a little bit more skilled in your rules and you know how to apply them, this little tip is going to be something that you can appreciate. So now we're also multiplying and dividing in this question. Now remember that our rules for division tells us that we can keep, change, and flip to solve for our division. Now in applying this rule, remember that 2/3 is being divided by 8/9. So that means that my 2/3 will be the fraction that I keep. My division sign, as always, will be changed, and then I'm going to flip the second fraction or the final fraction. So now let's write this information back in. So we're going to keep our 1/3 exactly the same, place back in our multiplication. My 2/3 will be the fraction that I keep. My division sign will be changed to multiplication, and then I'm going to flip or take the reciprocal of my second fraction where 9 will come to my numerator and my 8 will return to the denominator. And now we can see how our fraction has been transformed. And just like we did in the earlier session, in this one, I am also going to simplify our fraction. So remember that we're now in phase 10 or in session 10. So as we work through these questions more, we're going to be applying those steps or those little tricks that I think that at this phase, you should know how to use when you are working out your fractions. So let's begin. I'm going to start with 2. And since 2 and 8 are both even numbers, I will be dividing 2 by 2. So 2 divided by 2 will equal to 1. I will also divide my 8 by 2. 8 divided by 2 will equal to 4. And now when it comes to our 3's, I will be using both of these 3's in my method for simplifying. So for my first 3, I'm going to divide this 3 by 3. So 3 divided by 3 will equal to 1. And I will also divide my 9 by 3, where 9 divided by 3 will equal to 3. Now here's what I'm going to do at this step. Now because I've already divided my 9 by 3, that means I have an additional 3 remaining over. And please remember that if the working itself is looking a bit muddy to you, you can always feel free when you are working out your questions to rewrite your fractions if you feel you need the clarity or you just need to be able to see what numbers are left over so that you are dividing and multiplying with the correct numbers. Now, since I have a 3 left over in my first fraction and the 3 in the numerator of my final fraction, I will divide both of these 3's by 3. So 3 divided by 3 will equal to 1, and my 3 divided by 3 will equal to 1. So if you had rewritten your question, this is now what your fraction would look like. So in my first fraction, I have 1 in the numerator, 1 in the denominator. In our second fraction, we have a 1 in the numerator and a 1 in the denominator. And in my final fraction, I have a 1 in the numerator and I'm left with a 4 in the denominator. So I will now multiply 1 times 1 in my numerator, which will equal to 1, and 1 times 4 in our denominator will equal to 4. So you can see that even though in our last session we had the same numbers, the operation signs were in different places, when we work out these two fractions, we still arrive at a different solution. So students, I'm going to urge you that when you have a question, even though the numbers may look the same, remember that if your operation signs are not in the exact same place, or even if the fractions themselves are not in the exact same place, that does not mean that you are working out the same question. So make sure that you analyze your questions correctly and clearly before you begin making assumptions or working them out based on what you think you did prior. But as always, get some additional practice in, and we'll see you right here in the next session on Jules Math Tools, where the aim is always to make math easy.